Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. And we are very quickly approaching a brand new season. I'm really excited. I don't know about you guys. Really looking forward to actually starting. I'm recording this on a Tuesday morning, I believe. So got a couple of days until real football actually starts, and we've got a whole heap of content coming for you. And you'll probably notice if you're watching online on YouTube, a little bit of a different setup. You can see a bit more of my face. We've got a bit more of a professional mic. Hopefully it sounds better, but still same old content that you're expecting. And this week we're going to have a lot of content, starting with today, our league tour. Now, this is a little bit vain, I guess, because I'm doing this on the basis that you're going to be following my exploits over the season. So we have a couple of leagues that we introduced last year. We have the League of Record, which is called the Best League by Favre. That's ran by friend of the show, John, who's been on a couple of times now, and you can find him. I'll link his social medias below. That's been a league that's been started. It started 7+ years ago, I think. And funnily enough, I just happen to have the league title here, and for those of you on cam, you might be able to see it. Hopefully it'll focus. Rugby with Pads 2022-2023 winner. I am hoping to become the first back-to-back winner, and that's how this whole thing started, really. It was off the back of disappointment in the League of Record, and I wanted to do a podcast about the League of Record and my success in Dynasty. Last year the favours changed, and that leads us to our second league, which is the Quest for the Eighth Ring, which I don't think is the best name for a league, but it's a dynasty league, 10-man, and that had a lot of interest. We've talked about that a lot over the preseason and off-season. And finally, the last league that I introduced you guys to that I want to speak a lot about this year is going to be the League of Collusionary Gentlemen. League of Collusionary Gentlemen was an 8-man league started last year. We had a bunch of newbies who got really involved. It was an auto draft league, so it got really quite exciting about all the trades that were happening. This year, we've extended it to 14 people, added, I think, 4 brand new rookies to the league. And it should be really, really interesting. We've got a couple more veterans in there, a couple more people, and we've drafted this year and changed the league rules a little bit. So it's a bit of a different league, and we're going to see how that rolls as well. So those leagues I'm going to be talking about quite a lot. We also have our Zombie League. Zombie League is going to be different, but I will go over that in a separate thing. We will be running through that week by week. That's got a very interesting concept where if you come last and you fall to the pack, you can become a zombie where you lose your entire squad, you lose half your fab budget, and the idea is you claw back, and meanwhile the humans are just trying to protect themselves and stay alive, and that's going to be easier in the first few weeks. But when fab budgets reduce a little bit, that's where tactics come to play, and we might see some additional conversions into zombies. It's a survival game. So today we're going to go over the home league reviews. We're going to be looking at player shares, people who we're interested in across my leagues. So yeah, it is a little bit vain, I guess, but we'll also do a bit of draft analysis as well from the actual drafts across those home leagues as well. So yeah, lots of things to be getting into if you're part of any of those leagues, and if you're not, hopefully some of the analysis that we're going to go ahead and look at is still of interest to you. Later on this week, we're going to be doing top 10 tips for success in season. We've done a draft 101, a fantasy football 101, a 101 on 2 as well for both of those subjects. But we're going to be doing an in-season success guide for you as well. And we will be doing a bit of around the league as well. Hopefully get that off sometime this week. Maybe that'll drift into next week. And we will be doing a week 1 preview, probably release that on Thursday or Friday. I might talk about a little bit about the Thursday night game, but we'll see what happens on Thursday night when Kansas City meet up with the Detroit Lions for this season opener. But without further ado, I've talked a lot bit more about the intros and what we're going to be doing. You can go and have a look at the season preview for what we're going to do in this, the pod update, the state of the pod, I think I called it, which came out a couple of days ago. 6 minutes, you'll get what you're expecting, but week by week, you'll be seeing a waivers show, a week preview show, and sporadically, I want to be putting a bit more effort into these kind of feature shows, so you'll be able to see that as well. But without further ado, let's get into the content and take a look through the home leagues and the draft reviews that we've had here as well. Right, so we've done to death the the Dynasty show. We did a whole hour and a half plus episode on that. So let's focus on the actual redraft leagues that we've been in here. As I mentioned at the start, we've got the League of Collusionary Gentlemen. We've got the Best League by Favre, which is my home league, and Blood, Sweat and Braiiiins, which is the zombie league. So we'll start off and take a look at Best League by Favre. And Best League by Favre, you'll notice here, there's a lot going on here. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a lot going on. For those audio listeners, I will try and give you a guide. But what I've done is try to highlight all of the picks and what I think is positive, interesting, and negative. And I'll just skip through them a little bit. Maybe do a little bit of a review for each person, starting from the top. It is a keeper league, so what we have here is highlighted in this kind of pink hue is the keepers across the league, and they got announced a couple of days before the league started, so we had a bit of time to mock draft across them. Andy in the 1 spot took Olave in the 15th. Tim took Kelsey in the 3rd. Kristen took Mandrews in the 3rd. Boz took Mahomes in the 3rd. Tom took Tua in the 9th. Sorry, that was a bit of a tongue twister, that one. Kristen took Goddard in the 6th. John and Caroline took Hurts in the 5th. I think that was a fantastic pick. Alex took Pickens in the 11th. I think that's probably even. Ed took Devontae Smith in the 11th. I think that's a fantastic pick. And the best pick of all, I think, I took Fields in the 15th. It was based on where their draft positions were last year. I think it's the best way to do keepers. Lots of people do it in different ways. Some people just give up a first, but we wouldn't let you have elite players or players who were picked. So elite players picked in the first 2 rounds last year, or players who were previously keepers. So I can't remember who I had last year. I think I took ETN last year. I dropped him. So I didn't even have that choice. But yeah, these are the players that we were able to keep. Started off, yeah, as you would expect, and a positive pick from Andy in the first. Jay Jettis, Justin Jefferson is not going to fare you badly in a half PPR scoring. I maybe would have picked a running back in half PPR, a bit more important. It's only 2 wide receivers, so running back becomes a bit more a bit more powerful. But yeah, it's what it is. And we've got some interesting picks going forward. So the rest of the first round went Chase, Eckler, Cup. Cup is maybe looking like a bit of a dud pick now. He's going to be suffering, but Boz has never had good injury luck in the first round. I think he picked Lamar Miller one year and didn't play the entire season. Boz and injury luck does not go together, but he's won it twice. So, he is good elsewhere in the pack as well. Tom got Tyreek Hill at 5, and CMC, which I think was the best pick of the first round, dropped to Kristen in the 6th. Diggs, Pollard, CD, and I got Bijan Robinson. Now, Alex with Pollard over Bijan Robinson, I thought was interesting. I think the opportunity is there, but I'm not sure whether he's got the volume player, and I think they are going to pick someone up. And Lenny Fournette, for me, could be an interesting pick for them to be that goal line back if Pollard can't perform, but it's very close to the season, and Lenny has not been picked up yet, so maybe Pollard will work out. I picked Bijan up, and it's the only... Is it the only piece I have him? Maybe, but it was the first piece I had of him, and he just dropped to me, so I had to go and take him. And being that this was half PPR, I thought it was good. I then snaked over to Devontae, and the rest of the second round went kind of as you expect. Chubb, AJ Brown, Barkley, Henry, and Kristen went CMC, Henry, Jacobs, first 3. I think those are amazing picks, and she's dominating that running back position, which is something that has become a theme this year. I'm on Russell Brown, went middle of the second. ETN to Boz, again an interesting pick because I think Tank Bigsby is going to be breathing down his neck. Josh Allen goes where you expect him. Ramondre Stevenson a bit early, but Tim is a homer for Pats players, and Andy go with Garrett Wilson. Jonathan Taylor went first in the 3rd round. Then you have 3 keepers who I think were brilliant keepers. I think Kelsey would normally go in the 1st. Andrews would maybe go in that position, so it's not much value. Mahomes probably goes at the middle of the second, so a little bit of value, but give some consistency for Boz that he needs in his team so he can take risks elsewhere. Really like it. I've already mentioned that Jacobs was a good pick, but Tom picked up Waddle with Hill. So his first 3 picks were Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Waddle. I never liked the negative stack, but he has got Tua, so he is going for a super duper all in on the Dolphins. I'm not sure whether he's a Dolphins fan. I thought he was a Bengals fan for some reason, but we'll have to wait and see. Alex got Herbert in the third round, which is a bit early, but I think is a really good pick, especially when you paired it with Keenan in the 5th. You've got DK in the 4th. That is a mean. AJ Brown, Herbert, DK, Keenan. That is a mean set of players there. I really do like it. And Ed got Lamar. I ended up with Gibbs and Dixon going 3rd and 4th. There's a really good lineup here. So yeah, the first 4 rounds go as you expected. There weren't really many players who I thought were unexpected to go at those positions. Maybe Etienne a bit early. Jonathan Taylor now, I think in retrospect, maybe a bit early. Simply as I've got him elsewhere in the 7th, although that was a weird league. Elsewhere, I think everyone made decent enough choices. I'm not sure about Tom's pick of Waddle in the 3rd, but you know what? It's a brave choice. I really like it. And there are some other questionable choices he made, but I think he was on auto draft after first few rounds, so it kind of balanced out. But let's go through the teams pick by team by team and take a look at what I did and didn't like about them. Andy did end up on auto draft for a little bit of it. So after Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd, T-Law, Hawkinson, Mattison, 49ers and Carlson, too early. Never take your your defense and kicker that early. Dalvin Cook, bit questionable there, especially when you've got Hawkinson and Mattison as a competition. I don't like, because I don't like those stacks cancelling each other out. Dalvin Cook, Quentin Johnson, Gabe Davis, P. Ryan, A.K.A. and Goff. Olave, I think, is a fantastic pick. He's a wide receiver 1 in my opinion. So his top 3 wide receivers being Olave, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson. Brilliant. Really like that. Tim, I think, had a pretty decent draft. He got, I really like Dameon Pierce in the 6th. Unlike a lot of others, I think the opportunity cost there is brilliant for him. He got Thielen, who I think is going to be better than advertised, in the 14th. He got the wrong B. Robinson in the 10th. No, I'm joking. He got a Brian Robinson, who I think is going to be a serviceable value, but he definitely went hard on decent wide receivers, and Kelsey is just going to be an X factor for him. Kristen, there weren't any picks I really liked apart from, because I don't think Andrews really is the value that you want in the 3rd. I think there were better choices you could have made elsewhere. But following that up with Burrow and Mike Evans I really do like. I think that I'm changing that from an interesting pick to a positive pick, even though he's got some questions around his... I think it was a bit early, because I probably would have picked up... I'm not sure if Godwin was picked up earlier. No, Godwin was picked up afterwards. So I think it's a bit of a reach for Mike Evans, but in a half PPR league, you want that big play upside more so than in a PPR league. Butker, a bit early, but I think that's a homer pick by the sounds of it, and she also picked up the Chiefs. Decent lineup. I like that a lot. Boz, I've already said, Cup, I think, is now retrospectively a negative pick, but he didn't know the injury history there. ETN, Mahomes, Walker, Kittle. Walker I don't like, but I know that's a homer pick for him, so we'll have to see how that comes about. He did get Rodgers, even though he got Mahomes, and I'm a big proponent of avoid, if you've got a elite QB, and when I say elite, in the top 7, you don't need to go for another QB. He's just going to waste a roster spot. He's got Jeff Wilson, who's now on IR, and Everett, I don't think you needed it if you had Kittle, because you're not going to play Everett at any point. But I think Boz will do some business in the waiver wire. Tom, we've already talked about his Dolphins mega stack there. He ended up going on auto draft for a little bit. So Eagles, Tucker, just before he had Tua. He did get Dak. So if you're going all in on that stack, are you just picking up Dak for a bye week? I think that maybe that's an opportunity to trade him away for something a bit more valuable. And Njoku there, I think he was the number 1 tight end in that team. Yeah, I think. Oh no, he had already had Waller. So yeah, Waller, who I really liked. Picking Njoku again, same reason, for a onesie position. If you've got an elite, do you need to play someone else? Probably not. And he has got a Dolphins defense, so he's going all in on Dolphins. I must ask Tom if he is a Dolphins fan. Kristen, we've already mentioned those 3 mega running backs to start with. Brilliant. Ridley and Higgins, I think, are maybe questionable. are there. But Goddard, I think, as a top tier tight end, brilliant there. Then picked up Deshaun Watson. I think she was on auto draft for this bit, but got Richardson late on, which I think is massive upside. She's since dropped Deshaun Watson, so lost a 7th round pick. But elsewhere, I think that's a solid draft from Kristen. Out of the 6th spot there, John and Caroline, I think, layered up on the fact that they had a decent QB early on and had Hurts. Aaron Jones, I think, is a questionable running back 2. Followed that up with Antonio Gibson and Charbonnet, who I think have more upside than Aaron Jones does potentially. Wasn't the biggest fan of Freiermuth. I think Freiermuth is that kind of player that you just pick up because he's there at that time. Kincaid, I never trust rookie tight ends. I've been burnt too many times, but I hope he proves me wrong. Murray, I think, was a good pick over in 13th. He's gone straight on IR, and John's picked up a couple of. John and Caroline picked up a couple of others. Decent draft there. Alex, again, I've talked about that power play of Herbert, Keenan, DK, and AJ Brown. PPR machines. Pollard looking for volume there, but the running back 2 ends up being Pacheco, and I do not like this Pitts, Drake, London anti-stack. You can only throw to one, and it's going to be a low volume passing offense by all accounts. So I'm not so sure about that. JSN, I think that's a pick because she's got him over in Dynasty as well. Likes that pick. Overall, I think it's pretty decent. Didn't end up picking a defense in the draft, which I think is a very good strategy. If you're going to be drafting late and you want to have a bit more flexibility in your draft, don't pick up a defense. I think that's a very worthy strategy. Ed had a pretty good lineup here. I think Ed got a bit nervous with his QB because Lamar has been injury ridden and picked up Daniel Jones, which I do not agree with personally, but is what it is. Didn't get any stacks. Kamara as a running back 3, yeah, I can see it. I think he's got value, and I think he will be good later on in the season. Zay Flowers, I think, is a brilliant pick in the 12th round, and he doubled up with Ravens as well, so he's got that kind of defense offense stack. So if the defense play well, offense play well, he's going to be looking good there. And I'm being critical of my own draft here. I drafted from the 10. I got players I really wanted. I got Gibbs and Mixon. I got D-Hop, the first share of that. Mike Williams, I think, was a bit early, but I'm warming to him a bit more. I didn't manage to get any of my stacks off. I really wanted a DJ Moore, potentially, but I got snaked by Ed, I think, on that one. Yeah, I did. So I had to pivot a little bit, which is a shame. And I didn't get Cole Kmet either. I thought there was more value in getting Dalton Schultz as I missed my stack. Did get Deontay Johnson, who I'm warming on. Khalil Herbert, I think, could be a decent running back 3. And I went hard on those wide receivers. I looking to make sure that everything was in place there. Javonte Williams is an interesting pick because I think he has RB1 upside. Sky Moore as well. I just wanted a piece of that offense over there in Chiefs land. So we'll see how that plays out. But overall, I think a decent draft. I would say my favorite draft is probably... I'm trying to pick it out. I like Kristen's boldness of going those 3 running backs early on. I like Kristen's side as well, even though I don't think there was a huge amount of upside there. I think it was massively solid. Tom, I think, is a very, very brave set of picks there. But if he's liking the Dolphins to go 12 and 5, he's going to ride and die with them. I think overall everyone has drafted in their own style, and I don't think anything is negative or positive about any of them really. I think they're all got value in their own different ways, and that's what we want. You want a very even league, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this one pans out and see if I can be the first guy to go back to back. But good set of drafts there. In the League of Collusionary Gentlemen, switching really quickly here, we had another really interesting draft, much bigger draft. I'm not going to go into as much detail. I'm just going to pick out the players that I really, really liked and some of the issues I really had. And we'll go player by player rather than across the board. We'll go down the board. Harry was picking number 1, Justin Jefferson first, Stevenson as his number 1 running back. I'm not too warm on that. Njoku, I'm not sure if as a tight end he can really do the thing he needs to do. And Jordan Addison, I'm not particularly fond of him. I don't know what. It's an interesting pick. I've just not warmed to Jordan Addison. I know he's talented, but I just think they're going to lean on people like KJ Osborne. I don't know why. And Justin Jefferson, I think with the anti-stack there, he's going to find it difficult. But he has got Kirk Cousins in that stack, but he also has three more quarterbacks. I think he went on a weird kind of auto draft queue bender. A lot of teams did, and I think he's made some changes there as well. Boz, he was in the last draft, seasoned veteran. I really like the pickup of Andrews in the second. This is a tight end premium league. I think it's a solid pick. You can just set and forget that team with him in place, and I think it's a great pickup. So really liked it. Ollie had a good start. Kelsey as the 103, which I thought was really brave. But then it turned out that his queuing had really messed up a little bit and ended up going Joe Burrow, fine, in the second, bit early. Justin Tucker, the Jets. Oh, so yeah, he took his third and fourth round were really not good and end up on auto draft, and we had to make sure that we forced it in the right way to make sure he had a legal lineup overall. But yeah, Ollie, I know he's looking to do some trades and trade away Kelsey potentially for some things, so that's good. I quite liked Madison and Sanders, but as a running back 1-2, he needs some improvement there. Likewise, Mike, who is Shane Falco's jockstrap here, for those of you who are football film aficionados. Alvin Kamara, Mike Williams, I think are interesting picks. I think they are boom and bust, but he has got Bijan. So, you know what, you can't go wrong with that lineup there. We've got Clembo, that's Matt. Yeah, I thought this was a solid draft. Eckler, T. Higgins, and Deebo Samuel as his wide receiver 1 and 2, I think are a bit suspect because I think their range of outcomes is probably lower than a lot of others. But Trevor Lawrence and Evan Ingram, love that stack. I think that's a brilliant place to go forward. Sven in his first ever draft, and you know, learning all about football in general, I think made some interesting picks. I really like the Deontay Johnson reach in the 6th. I think that was a good pickup. He's got J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson, so he's sealing up that running game. Lamar Jackson is not a running back. Running game over in the Ravens world. Carlson and the Bills and in the 8th and 9th, bit early, but you know, these are draft mistakes you make in your first ever draft. Andy did pretty well. I like Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill was a steal of many drafts at the 107. Travis Etienne is your running back 1. A little bit suspect, although, and he is a Packers homer and went for Green Bay and Luke Musgrave in the 8th and 9th. Bit of a reach there, in my opinion. Especially, I don't think the Green Bay Packers defense is going to be fantastic. Dan, again, regular contributor to the pod, big supporter. Thank you, Dan. And he had an interesting draft. I liked his middle rounds. He went early running back, so it went Diggs, Pollard, Jonathan Taylor now maybe looking a bit sus, but he's on an IR spot, and he has got Connor and Akers, who I think are going to be volume machines early on. Generally like that. I wasn't a fan of Gerald Everett as his number 1 tight end, but you know, I've been taking more tight ends early. I've been switching my my thing up a little bit. Jack went early with Cooper Kupp, now looking like a bad pick, but you know, it is what it is. But he has got Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith as a stack. I think that's brilliant. Bit questionable about why he went for Deshaun Watson in the 8th. Is what it is. Ben in his first draft, this is my brother. He was on auto draft, unfortunately, and his team is crazy. He went CD Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Waddle, Herbert, Watson. Crazy. Just ignored the running back room, his auto draft, but I think it served him well. And I think now Dalvin Cook, now that he is on the Jets, I think he could be serviceable. Brian Robinson, again, as well as a second running back, and Jalen Warren as a third. I think that's a weirdly serviceable team, as well as it being PPR with other reception points as well in this league. He's not going to do too badly, but I do think it needs a little bit of tuning to make sure it's correct. So, Ben, if you're listening, make sure to take a look at your lineup. James over here, you know, it's a solid lineup. Barkley, Jacobs, Olave, Moore in the first 4 rounds, Kittle in the 5th. That's good. Cook is your number 3. Geno Smith as the 8th. I think he sniped me on that one. So Geno Smith, like a lot. I ended up with Goff. Yeah, just a great lineup. And this was a difficult draft because you're noticing now we're already 11 names down. This is a 14-man draft. I was at the end. This was a lottery-based draft, so Harry, even though he did pretty well last year, ended up getting big and getting the number 1 spot. But it is what it is. And that left John me and Ed at the back. So it's John, Ed, and me, sorry, at the back. And we were drafting together on a Zoom call. And yeah, it was a lot of fun because everyone knew what everyone was drafting because we'd already previously done that last draft together. So everyone kind of knew who everyone wanted. So John ended up sniping Mixon from me in the third, which I think was a great pick. I love that. And pairing it with Henry and Adams, I think that's great. He got Tyler Lockett early on, but I think Tyler Lockett is going to be better than advertised. So, I'm warming to that one. Ed definitely did snipe me on one pick. I can't remember who it was, but definitely sniped me on a pick or two. But yeah, I like his squad. He went Mahomes early, which I like. Really going for an elite quarterback there. He didn't manage to get a pairing with him. Oh no, he did later on with John Ross. We had to teach Ed quite a lot about stacks and why they're important, but we think we've got him on side. His later round with Schultz, Algier, Bateman and Ross, I love that. Pacheco and Montgomery, his running back room is leaving a little bit to be desired. I'm not warm on Jerry Jeudy, but these are interesting picks. I went Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chubb, Metcalf, Waller, got another Waller share there early. Godwin, Javonte, AJ Dillon, solid for me. I think I ended up with Goff, and I did the John thing of going Kyler Murray. I ended up with Folk. I don't know why I picked Folk, and I think he's going to lose out on that as well. But I've swapped him out already, and I am looking to make some moves in the trade market already. So overall, I think everyone had an interesting experience. I think it showed who were the veterans in this one because you see a lot less red marks on the veterans, except me. That last pick was just stupid. But, last pick is last pick. You might as well not pick him up. The auto draft, I think people suffered with and people didn't quite use the cues correctly. But you know what? I think these things are learning things. And this is a fun, beginners league. We are trying to go from beginners, intermediates and experts, mix them all together and make it even out the playing field a little bit. But I think this was a really interesting draft and a lot of fun and a lot of tactics because I haven't done a 14-man draft in a long while and not one that's quite this deep. Overall, I actually ran this through the football guys. So if you like, getting teams rated, etc., the football guys are really good. I really recommend them. They've got a great rate my draft. Overall, I think I'm half Chubb. was my team name. I think it did okay. Jack, who went early and went often with quarterbacks, did okay. A minus there. I think it was the best score there. Boz like that as well. But bearing in mind this was a little while ago, so take it as is on your draft grades. Personally, I think I liked whose draft did I like the most. I probably liked John's and Ed's draft the most, and they did pretty well out of them. So we'll see how it goes. They got a B and a B plus. To spare, I got a B plus as well. But you know what? That's all personal preference, and we'll see how the rest of the league fares out. Right, we'll take a little break, just a little one, and we'll see you on the other side in just a moment. But we'll continue on with the Zombie League, and I'll explain a bit about how that works and what we're going to be seeing. And then we'll go over and quickly do a bit of league shares of what players you'll be seeing me play with. Right, after that break, let's take a look at this final league and see what happened there. Shall we? So, Blood, Sweat and Brains, really interesting league. We got 12 people involved, some people from my friends over in Instagram world. Follow me if you want to be interested in these leagues. The concept of this league is that you need to survive. You don't need to win your matchup. Matchups don't matter. You just need to make sure you don't have the minimal amount of points. This means that week one is really important. Week one is really, really important. It's got a really interesting setup as well, that you only have one bench spot, and that's going to be important because you can't stash players for ages. You've got to adapt, and when it comes to bye weeks, I think we're going to see some chaos. But let's go through who we've got here. So we had James, who was in the last one as well. Evan Engram and Njoku. This is a 2 tight end league. I really like those picks. I think they're great. Kadarius Toney as a flex spot is decent, but he started off with Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson. I think you can't go wrong with that pairing there. And Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is going to be solid. He's got Justin Fields as a QB1. Really good lineup here. I really like James's lineup. Ed was drafting second, and bear in mind this was this was randomized 2 minutes before the draft. I ended up with a 13th, the 11th spot. It was awful. Hated that. But anyway, Ed drafting early, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hawkinson, Dobbins, Justin Herbert. Solid core there, and getting a elite tight end there early, and pairing it with probably a tier 2, but still a very decent tight end. Could potentially be a tight end 1 once it's all said and done, in Dalton Schultz over there in the 7th spot. I think that's great. Kristen had a bit of a mare. She was on auto draft. I think she's going to suffer with week 1 cup probably not playing. Alvin Kamara not playing as well. Stafford and Hill potentially not playing there as well. She's going to have to do some business in the waiver wire or in trades, or she'll become one of our first zombies. In the first week, we're going to have 2 zombies created, so everyone plays normally until then. And after that, you'll lose half your fab and have to lose all your team as well. Matt did pretty okay, although I think Tank Bigsby is going to sit on the bench. Cole Kmet I quite like, and he does need a legal lineup, so he's going to need another tight end before too long. This is the Panthers Magpie on Instagram. I'll link him in the bit below as well. Great content if you are a Panthers fan or you are from Newcastle. Austin Eckler, Pollard, Taylor, and Cook. He dominated that running back room, and I think D Hop in the 5th is a decent first wide receiver. Questionable second set of receivers, and he did leave tight end late, but that's a choice you make, and it's a defensive choice. Dan went with what I think was probably the best pick of the first round in Travis Kelce in a 2 tight end league. That was the meta. I think going early on tight end, got paired up with Josh Allen. I think that's great. He's going to come out of the blocks. Evans and Williams later on. This is a solid team. I really like it. Ben suffered a little bit from the curse of the auto draft. Bad tight ends, not great QBs. He can only play one of them. Hopefully he'll make some edits before the season starts. Tyreek Hill goes to B Rabbit. B Rabbit is someone who I was in a charity league for, the JTTC tournament as well. Go and have a look at them. I'll link them in the description below. But Tyreek Hill, Henry, and Gibbs, I love those first 3 picks. Aaron Rodgers as a second QB though. I think you could do him as a first. I think there was a better pick there to be had, because he's going to sit on the bench unless you're going to do him over for Tua. But Aaron Rodgers is going to have a tough first couple of weeks, and I think that is going to be really interesting. He's going to be playing. Who does he start off with? The Bills. The Bills, who have a top-rated defense. It's going to be difficult for him. Boz had a decent lineup. Nothing I really liked. I think Javonte Williams is a bit of an interesting one. I think he could have a lot of value. Week 1 is suspect though. John had a great lineup. Getting Waller and Pitts as his 2 tight ends, I think is fantastic. Really, really like that. Devontae Adams, Jalen Hurts, Joe Mixon. He's got a great lineup here, and he's got a spare with Hayden Hurst. He didn't need a spare, but he's got him here. I had an interesting first one because I was early, and there is a bit of a QB premium in this league as well. So I went Mahomes and paired him. Mainly I went Mahomes because I didn't want Dan to get Mahomes in the second. I didn't want that Kelce Mahomes stack because that is a world beater. And if anyone gets that in later on in the season through waivers or trades or something, that's going to be crazy. I ended up going Andrews because I think securing a tight end there is going to be really important. DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, I really liked his value in the 3rd and 4th. Not happy with my running backs, but this is a survival league. As long as I'm not last, that's what matters. Laporta is probably a poor choice because I went against my first round tight end, first year tight end thinking, but I got Cade Otton, who I think is going to be better than advertised. Finally, Harry drafting last. Rashad Penny, I don't think is a great pick. I think he's on the bubble now. I think he might have already been dropped, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But yeah, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, again a bit of a negative stack there. But if you're going hard on thinking the Eagles are going to come out of the blocks, then it's going to be an interesting lineup, and I think the scores kind of agree with that. They didn't like who's Kenneth Walker's? Everyone's changed their team names already, so I need to remember who everyone is, but I can't remember who got Ken Walker. Matt. They didn't like Matt's team at all, and I don't agree with that. I like Matt's team a lot, but we'll have to see how that goes out. I am all in a day's work because I couldn't think of anything better. B. I think Ed probably did have the best lineup there, so I agree with that. He got an A. Boz got a really decent lineup, and I think Ed and Boz did pretty well, but they were drafting pretty early. So Ed was drafting in second, so I think he probably had the strongest lineup. But again, you don't have to be the strongest; you just don't have to be the weakest in this league. So it'll be interesting to see how those leagues pan out, and I'm really interested to see whether the choices made in those drafts actually impact the season long term. I hope they will. I hope they will, and I hope we'll see. I do hope we'll see a lot of movement in trades, and we're already, putting up a lot of trades in certain areas of these leagues. So we'll have to see what comes up. But let me know what you think. Which teams do you think were the strongest and the weakest? Right. We'll take a quick break and we'll go over my league shares, and we'll look at some players who I think are going to be interesting, and I'll be interested to hear your feedback on these players as well. But I'll see you on the other side shortly. So we are going to enter our final section, and we are going to be looking at a little bit of league shares. Now, I wanted to do this across these leagues, mainly to talk about players who I think are interesting and the decisions I made around them. So let's kick it off. I entered 10 leagues this year. A number of them are best ball leagues. Some of them are managed leagues. These are the core managed leagues that I'm in. I'm plus the Migla Bowl, plus one more, I think. I can't remember what it is. But, I've got a couple of random leagues. But I did them all to test out various theories and hypotheses about how I should be managing my players. But let's get into the meat of it. I announced a little bit earlier in the preseason my guys, and Aaron Rodgers came up a lot there. I got 3 shares of Aaron Rodgers across those leagues. I thought it would be more, but I was really surprised that I got quite a lot of Kyler Murray. I warmed on him based on opportunity cost, and ended up with another 3 shares of him. He's gone on my IR and across all of those because he was a free pickup in the 13th, 14th, 15th round, and I think he was really good. So if you're still drafting, not that I think anyone really will be, I think draft's gone now. If you have an opportunity to pick him up, stash him away. I think he could be incredible value for your team. Elsewhere, I got a couple of shares of Jared Goff and Justin Herbert. Really happy with those. Justin Herbert. Jared Goff was an interesting one because I was expecting to get more Geno, but often he didn't quite fall to me. And Jared Goff, I think, I paired quite nicely, quite a lot of time with my other Lions players, who I'll go over in a second. Elsewhere, I got, I thought I would get a lot more Fields. I only got 1 of Fields. I also got 1 Mahomes, Hurts, Tua, Jimmy G, Tannehill, Richardson, and Josh Allen. A lot of that based on opportunity, plus just trying things out, certain things. I think what this shows is that I didn't let the QB choice dictate my draft. Instead, what I looked to do was ensure that I had a decent draft elsewhere, and then I would go search for my QB. And in very rare cases did I pick a first or second rounder, and that might be situational or based on the fact it was super flex. And I think that's why I picked up Mahomes, Hurts, and some of the other guys. Some of the other guys that I picked there were second or third guys that I picked in very deep drafts. Jimmy G, Tannehill, were definitely those picks. They were picked really low in the draft, and there was a bunch of other guys that I've got 1 or 2 of as well, but I didn't want to list them here. I didn't get any Geno, didn't get any Cousins, didn't get any T-Law, Dak, or Lamar. I didn't get Lamar mainly bit of opportunity. He went way earlier than I was expecting in a lot of drafts, and I don't rate him quite as high as I did Fields, but I still only got 1 Fields, and that was because I had him as a keeper. So goes to show that I don't think you can base your draft off, especially in single QB, off your QB. But you probably can for running backs. And I ended up dictating many of mine across running backs. And I picked up 5 shares of all 3 of Jahmyr Gibbs, Nick Chubb, and Joe Mixon. Basically, 30% of my drafted running backs were those 3 guys, which was huge. I expected to get a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs because I was really high on him, and I probably overpaid in some areas. Joe Mixon, I traded for in some areas, and I thought, again, opportunity cost there. But Nick Chubb really jumped to me. I was drafting a lot at the end of draft, and I think that probably dictated where I needed to pick up a running back. Picked him up early second, late first. He just fell to me, and I think his opportunity was great. But when I didn't pick those guys up, or I did pick them up and I wanted a late guy, I would often pick Khalil Herbert. I got 4 shares of him, 8% of my drafted running backs. Yeah, I think the opportunity on him was really good. I really like the Chicago offense, especially in the run game. I think they were great last year. If they think they can lean on that, and Eberflus is a smarter coach than Matt Nagy, hopefully, that'd be great. And finally, in my kind of third slot, my bronze slot here, Alvin Kamara and Javonte Williams. I've got 3 of each of those, different reasons, but I think both of them for upside, and I think that's where you're going to win these leagues. Alvin Kamara has shown that he can be a 6 TD kind of guy. He can be the guy in that offense, and I think if the Saints really want to tap into it and really make headway in their division, they'll lean on Alvin Kamara when he comes back from suspension. Javonte Williams was such a highly touted guy. I really believe in, and he's my hope pick. But he was available in the 7th or 8th or 9th in some areas. So low draft cost, high opportunity. I didn't get any CMC or Eckler. I'm so upset I didn't get any Eckler because I rode him to success in so many places. But can he do it back to back and be the RB1? Lots of questions around that. I would have loved to get some Saquon, but I think with the contract stuff, I wasn't quite willing to dip in there. And the same with Jacobs as well. Damian Pierce I was high on, but again, the opportunity didn't quite fall to me, and he was probably going a little bit higher as people got spooked on if they were going 0 RB. Pollard I was not high on, and Ramondre I was not high on either, so I didn't get any of them. But yeah, pretty even distribution, and I liked my guys. And running backs, I probably spend a bit too much time in analysing running backs, and I know who I like. Wide receivers, though, similar story. It shows that 22% of my guys were either Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, or Gabe Davis. I like them a lot. I traded for these guys. I picked them up where I could. I overpaid a little bit in places, especially for DK. But and I got a couple of stacks with these guys as well. So yeah, really, really happy with them. 5 of each of them. I got 3 of each of these kind of middling guys, and you get in the middle to late rounds. Quentin Johnson, Cortland Sutton, Sky Moore. I wanted a piece of that Kansas City offense. Devontae Adams. Again, that was more because I was drafting late. So that's a similar story to Nick Chubb there. Romeo Dobbs, Keenan Allen. For some reason, I've got Sutton on here twice. I don't know why that, but probably an accounting error. And I was surprised that I didn't get more of DJ Moore. I only got 2 of him. I was really high on him, and there were other players who I was really high on who I thought might drop to me in the first later on, like Diggs and Tyreek Hill. Didn't get any of those. I was big on Mike Evans as being a sleeper player, but didn't get any of him, unfortunately. But you know what? The season is long, and people get dropped and people get picked up, so I will be looking out for some of these guys on the waiver wire. I think that shows that I let my draft be dictated in certain ways to get certain players, and maybe I've been formulaic, but I like rooting for players who I like rooting for, and one of those players I like rooting for is Darren Waller. Darren Waller, I've got 3 shares of him, 12% of my tight end picks here. I also got 3 shares of Cade Otton, who wasn't on my radar, but I think could be a bit of a sleeper hitter. So if you listen to my sleeper episode, that's where you'll understand his name and why he's there. Schultz and Laporta, I went against my rookie tight end, but I played in a couple of leagues where it's best ball, and you know what, I think he's got opportunity in the first 6 weeks with Jameson Williams out on suspension. I got a couple of big guys. I've got one of Kelsey and Andrews each. The rest are just guys: Higbee, Everett, McBride. I played in some leagues where I had to go late, and it shows, I think, that I sacrifice the tight end position. Unless I get a big guy, I sacrifice the tight end position, and that's my strategy. And hopefully, it will pay off this year. We'll see at the end of the year whether I will be regretting that choice. I didn't get any Okonkwo, which I'm upset about. I didn't get many middle round guys like Komet, Kittle, Pitts, Engram, Freiermuth. I'm not sure if I wanted them though. I think if things had fallen, if I got some Trevor Lawrence, I probably would have forced the issue and got Engram. I didn't like Pitts because I got a couple of Drake London shares here and there, which meant I didn't like Pitts, and I didn't like Pitts if I got Bijan as well, of which I got 2, I think, Bijans in the end. Kittle, I just think the injury history, and I know, don't buy the injury hype, but yeah, it's a thing to be said. Overall, though, I think I'm not surprised by this, and I shouldn't be surprised because I did all these drafts. I knew I'd get a lot of Aaron Rodgers. I bought the dip on him, and I'm happy I did. Didn't think I'd get more Justin Herbert. I thought he would be a dynasty only share, but something landed to me in the Mega Bowl, and I was really happy to just swoop him up. Running backs, I'm not surprised on. I think I can't shake the tendency of letting my drafts be dictated by running backs. I let it be dictated a little bit more by wide receivers, but you can see here I don't have loads of shares of Devontae, who I always went for. I don't have loads of shares of any of the elite guys. These are tier 2 guys in most people's opinion, and I got a lot of them, and that's I built my my drafts on opportunity rather than and week by week opportunity rather than just a set and forget elite wide receiver. I've still gone middle of the road on that one. Tight ends I deprioritized. I'm really surprised I got lots of K. Dotton. Not really surprised I got lots of Darren Waller. Dalton Schultz was it was a nice surprise to get him late on a couple of drafts, and maybe I've misread the situation, but I think he's pretty good. But we'll have to wait and see. That is that, guys. That's the episode for today. I've done a lot. I think we've gone through all the drafts that were important. We've gone through the league shares and why I think these players are important and why you should be looking at them. Obviously, you can't pick them up in drafts now. You probably drafted already, unless you're doing a week 2 starter. No one should do a week 2 starter. But hopefully, giving you some thoughts, and maybe you can look at your own squads and think, okay, well, why did I make those choices? You will probably hear from me again tomorrow, maybe. I think. Well, I'm not sure which one I'm going to release first. Whether it's going to be around the NFL episode, or I'm going to be releasing my in-season guide. But we'll have to see what comes first. I'll probably release the in-season guide on Friday because you're going to make your Thursday choices. But quick warning in advance: do make your Thursday picks, your Thursday picks, right. So take anyone who is in the Thursday game, who is in a Kansas City Chief or a Detroit Lion out of your flex spots. Gives you more flexibility throughout the rest of the week. I'm going to be harping on about that throughout the year as well. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find me on any of the socials, we're at Rugby with Pads. You can email me as well, Sam at Rugby with Pads. You can support the pod and get membership, rugbywithpads.com. And a little bit of announcement, we have an Etsy store now. If you go to store.rugbywithpads.com, I'll put the description down there somewhere. You can find all our merch, and we'll be doing some releases before the season and during as well. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I appreciate you all, and I will see you all very soon on the virtual gridiron.